Hello, hello. Welcome for another edition of Inside the Den. And I am so excited to introduce Jennifer Janes. She has been a member for quite a while now, actually. And interesting enough, look at how we coordinated our outfits today. So funny, right? But we're here, and for Inside the Den, what this is all about is when we highlight our members and they come in and they speak to us what's on their heart, how they're helping themselves with their self-care, and also giving us a power word around everything that connects our conversation together. So I am going to share with you Jennifer Janes, and she's going to introduce herself and give us what's on her heart today. Hello.
Great.
Welcome.
Thanks, Pam. As Pam said, I'm Jennifer Janes. I am from the Syracuse, New York area, where I work as a fundraiser for the Loretto Foundation. I have two college-age girls, and I'm also married to my husband. We've been married for 29 years. So busy, active life, but thankful for this community where I can take a moment each week for myself and to think about how I want to grow and change as a person. So today I just wanted to share with you a little bit about myself and also how I'm trying to find more joy in the everyday. So a little bit about my past that most people don't know is that I grew up living on a dairy farm. So as you can imagine, most of my days when I wasn't in school was working on the farm. And I developed this really strong work ethic that is both good and bad. So I work very hard, which my employer has always cherished because I don't give up a lot. I continue to work, which is great. But I also developed that mindset that there is no play until all of the work is done. So it's been frustrating just because I will just do, and never really take the time. But I will say that I'm changing all that. So I came to the realization that I just had to live without a to-do list sometimes. I would have a to-do list at work, I would have a to-do list at home, and I would have a to-do list for the week. And I would focus on getting all of that work done. And then if there was time left, I would go have fun. I was also the type of person that couldn't say no. So if the classroom needed cupcakes, I was the one making them.
I hear you.
I was the one that said, I'll do it. So I really have been working on that and thankful for this community that has helped me realize that goal of letting go and saying no. But during that process, I also came across an article that was written by Cassie Holmes, who wrote a book called The Happier Hour. But the article focused on living your weekends like a mini vacation. And I really took hold of that concept. Like, wow, I'm like, it was put right in front of me. And I said, that's what I need. I need to live my weekends like so that's what has brought us here today.
Yeah, the power, and this episode is the power of joy, right? Like just the power of finding joy. And I think it's interesting that you have said that your work ethic, it is a positive and a negative, right? That, and I find myself, I'm the same way, and I find myself trying to share with our daughter, our children, that work ethic, but not creating maybe the same depth of not having that. And balance is a funny word, but not having that ability to change and really listen to what's in your heart, but also stay true to what you committed to. Would you find that
Exactly.
is a challenge at times?
Oh, it's definitely a challenge because I tend to revert back to what I know sometimes. So I hear that voice in my head saying, you got chores to do, you know, you need to go get your chores done. And then you can go out with your friends. So there's a little bit of that, because it was so ingrained in me that it's been a process to really focus on something else.
Yeah, so that's really interesting is that it's an actual focus that you have to do, right? Like you have to intentionally be focused on the fact that I'm gonna experience this. Now the thing I find, and maybe you do as well, is that our work does bring us joy.
Mhm.
And sometimes, right? And sometimes that's hard because we have to find the line of, okay, it does bring us joy. Me as an entrepreneur and running the community, I find so much joy in giving to the community that I have to still realize that there has to be a start and an end point to things
Mhm.
like that, so we could focus on the stuff that really helps us find that joy. So while you're doing that, what are some of the tips that you're doing, or that you could share about finding joy?
Yeah, so if we stick to the topic of using your weekends as a mini vacation, and it doesn't have to be the weekend if another time during the week works for you. It's more about a mindset and being in the moment rather than going somewhere or doing something extravagant. It doesn't have to be that. But really, when I read this article, it pointed out that people who take vacations tend to have better health. They're more creative, they perform better at their job, and overall, they're more satisfied with their life. And I'm like, wow, I
Yeah.
didn't think about that, but it makes sense. Um, and then there was a statistic in the article that said 40% of US workers use all their vacation. So the other 52% of us are not using the vacation. That's just really sad.
That is really sad.
I felt like, oh my gosh, if I'm not here in the office, then nothing will get done. Um, so people who started adopting this vacation mindset reported being happier, less stressed and worried, and more satisfied than those who just kind of lived their life like I was living, where they were constantly on the go, constantly having to be busy. And I also think in a lot of workplaces, the busier you are, the more you're rewarded. And I'm like, well, then I guess I'm not going to be rewarded because I'm going to set boundaries. This is my time. So what I found, it's really just about that simple mindset shift. That you're really focusing on activities that bring you joy, being more present in the moment. So even if you go out for a hike, and you know, when people think of vacation, they think of, oh, I have to spend a lot of money to go have fun. Well, you really don't.
Mm,
Um, it can just be, you know, having friends over or not having friends over.
right.
Uh, for me, I have accumulated this vast amount of cookbooks for some reason. I don't know. I have a whole cabinet of
I do too.
some weeks I will just randomly take out a cookbook and find a recipe that I've likely never made, because some of these cookbooks I've looked at when I bought them and then they went in the cabinet. So I will find a recipe that looks good and I'll go buy the ingredients and I will spend the time making a really nice meal
I love
that
that.
I don't have time for. I've also learned to be more spontaneous. So I don't know, a month or so ago, we had the opportunity to go to a concert 2 hours away in the middle of the week. My first reaction was no, I can't do that. But then I'm like, why am I saying no? It's one night. It's not like I'm out till 1 a.m. every night.
Mm.
Gosh, it was so amazing. It brought me back to my teenage years. Because it was two bands that I listened to growing up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did it. And the next day, even though I had about 3 hours of sleep, I didn't feel tired, and I really thought about that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I should be dragging, but I feel so much joy that I had this opportunity. Um, so that's kind of how I have shifted my mindset. So the next day, although I only had 3 hours of sleep, I wasn't feeling tired. And that was pretty amazing to me, because I was feeling really more joy. And I'm sure I was tired. My body probably was falling apart, but the joy of being able to go to that concert, was pretty amazing. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the next day I just really had a lot of energy and was feeling that joy that the concert brought me. So so it was working, that I was living my life like a
So
vacation,
beautiful.
you know, breaking from routine, my nightly routine, and doing something different. Um, and that's really what it means to live your weekends like a vacation, is to break from those routines that you're typically in, and just finding something different to do, I guess.
I love that because we could take that concept to many different ways in our lives, the things that we're tackling, right? We want to be more healthier or walk more or eat better or do what is that? How do you break your routine of what's going on every single day and get that energy that you get? So that's proven right there that you broke a big routine. Going out to a concert during the middle of the week, that's something we did when we were kids and
I
teenagers
know.
and adults, you know, and to say yes to that, you could definitely see the mindset shifting for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you did great. You did great the next day.
Yep.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
and I think it's so important to really start thinking about that, and the benefits you get from breaking that routine.
I love that too, the benefits. So the benefits you got from breaking that routine was you got to go back and listen to music that brought up all really good memories. You had to be with people that you enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it still didn't hinder what you needed to do, what your work ethic was telling you that needed to be done, right? It was okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. That was beautiful. So
Yeah.
what other things are you working on right now to continue that feeling of creating the joy? And is joy, happiness and peace and joy and purpose are words that we use a lot or we strive to have.
Mm-hmm.
But what does that joy mean to you? And how does it show up for you on a daily basis by continuing to do this work and this mindset?
Yeah, I think for me, it's more of the simple things. So when people hear joy, they think of like the birth of a child or
Mm,
your wedding day or something big or a milestone. But for me, I'm really trying to be more present. Like when I go out for a walk, like I'm trying not to think about other things. I'm like focusing what is in front of me.
mm,
So like I live in the country, so if I walk outside, I don't have sidewalks and there's just wide open fields. So along the road, there's like these wildflowers and I'm like, oh my gosh, those are so pretty. So I'll take out my phone and snap a picture, and I've created this album of like these flowers that I see on the side of the road that I drive
Beautiful.
by, never notice them. And they're just so colorful, and they're flowers that I've actually never seen, although I've lived in my house for 17 years.
Wow, that is amazing. Like being so present in the moment. And even in the past, when you were walking, you probably didn't notice them as much
Yeah.
since you've been
Yeah, I
doing
was
this.
focused on the walk. I'm like, oh my gosh, I better get out to walk because it's what people are telling me I should do, rather than using that walk for something different, like to just kind of calm myself, or listen to music or a podcast, but really just focusing on, like, actually really focusing on nothing, if that makes sense.
It does, because how hard that is, that's not an easy thing to do.
It's not. I mean, I have to say not every day is like that, because sometimes the world just is complicated, but even if you can do it for 5 minutes, I think it does make a difference.
Yeah, I love that. So thinking about all of this, what is that? I know joy is what you're trying and you're
Mhm.
working on and you're doing to accomplish. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us before I ask you your self-care and your power word? Is there anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would just share that everyone can do this. It's just making time for yourself and breaking from routine, which sometimes is hard. People don't like change, but I would say just start small. Do it for 5 minutes or 10,
Mm.
work up to that.
Start small. That is such good advice, because how many times do we want to make a change and we go in full blast? I mean, it's just like people
Mhm,
at the beginning of the year, right? Going to the gym or doing all these, and
mhm.
all of a sudden, a week later, 2 weeks later, the end of the month, they're not doing it anymore because they're in
Right.
it gung ho. But I think creating change takes time, because we didn't become who we are just overnight. These
Yeah,
habits that we have created, good or bad habits that we created, really has been created because of our life or our circumstances or what has been around us. So finding the joy in what life really
mhm.
means to you is what
Yeah,
really matters.
yeah, and it's
Define
different
that.
for everyone. And I just thought of this actually, but when I started this process, I made my typical weekend to-do list. And Saturday morning, I ripped it up and threw it away. It was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do all day?
That's
That was my
awesome.
action, but I survived. I mean, certainly you have to do things around the house, and they're pretty obvious, so you don't need to write them down. Um, but yeah, that was I think a big moment for me. Yeah, I when I first started this process, I did my to-do list, my weekly or my weekend to-do list, and then on Saturday morning, I ripped it up and threw it away. And it
Scary.
was scary for me for sure. But I survived. Things that had to get done got done, because it's sometimes pretty obvious what needs to be done around the house. Um, but I wasn't glued to that to-do list, and it was hard because I am that person that likes to check things off. Like, it was a sense of accomplishment, but um on Sunday night I reflected back and I said, wow, I did do a lot, and I went out and had fun too and did something for myself. So you just have to take a deep breath sometimes.
Take a deep breath. Exactly. And I love that you survived
Yeah.
without the to-do list. And I don't know, that's a whole nother conversation of why we think we need to-do lists and checking
Yeah,
off and stuff like that. That's
for
definitely
sure.
another conversation. And I think that comes from our work ethic and how we were raised to be hard workers and consistently have chores, and you can't do this unless you do that.
Mhm.
And I have a feeling that has a lot to do with that to-do list.
I think so.
And that may bring people joy sometimes, but I really love thinking past that mask, like you've said, right? Like we have this persona of who we think we are and who we need, and you're finding that you don't need that in order
Mhm.
to have this beautiful, joyful life. And
Mhm.
I love that because I've seen the transformation and the hard work that you've done over the past year or so. You've been working on that. So I think that's beautiful. Thank you
Well,
for
thank you.
sharing all that with us.
Mhm.
So I want to ask you, what is your biggest self-care tip, or what you're doing for yourself that you think others might also find beneficial?
Yeah, I think for me, it's slowing down and giving myself permission to rest.
Mm,
Like I am that person that had to sit on the couch and do nothing. Oh my gosh, I just had all these voices in my head saying, Jennifer, get up and go do something. You can't just sit here. But yeah, it's been a process, but I can just sit down. I can sit down and read a book or not. I can just sit there. Um, and just use that time to be in the moment and to really just kind of think what you want in your life and what type of person you want to be.
I love that. So really pausing it, and that is not an easy, that is not easy at all. I was just in a car for 4 hours, right? And I was working because I had my laptop and I could work. And then all of a
Yeah,
sudden on Friday afternoon, I was like, no, this isn't what this ride is about. And I
right.
closed it up and I put it away and I said, no, that's this. But in my mind, it was like, I have 4 hours that I'm not doing anything. Michael's driving. I just have to sit here. So I'm going to work. I'm going to journal. I'm going to listen to a book. I'm going to do. And then finally, I was like, no, you know what? I'm just going to pause. I'm going to look at the beautiful scenery on our way. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to just play a game with with the kids, some of those card games that you do, and just be present. So it really feels great when you give yourself that permission to pause. And I think
Oh,
that is
absolutely.
really important, is giving
Yeah.
ourselves that permission.
Yeah. I think looking back, I think life kind of just flew by me sometimes, and I wasn't the wiser to really notice that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable how fast it does go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And looking back on the choices that we've made throughout the years brought us to where we are. But I really, okay, guys, we're having some technical difficulties this morning, and we're going to do our best to make this, because this conversation is absolutely amazing. I don't know if you heard me talking back at myself just now, but this is recorded, but it's live at the same time. So the message is so powerful. Just bear with us as we go through this, but it is dynamite. It's
It's
all
real
real.
life.
It's real life. It's real life. And I love this. I love it. So, and I have to thank Jen for really going with this, because she did an amazing inside the den with me a while ago, almost a year ago. And it
Mhm.
was on being an introvert, right? Like really. So this is powerful that you're here and you're with me while we're going through all of this, and still keeping on point on delivering your message is absolutely
Mhm.
beautiful. So thank you for that. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you and the message very much. So tell me, what would be that power word that will help you bring all of this topic together other than joy? What's another word would you choose?
Yeah, I think for a while I've been using authentic,
Mm.
just being myself and um I guess working on myself and who I want to be as a person, and I don't want to be that rigid person anymore. So I'm
Mm.
um I'm showing up as me, and I'm not always perfect, hence the
None of us
title.
are.
No, I just roll with it, and I've come a long way.
Yes, yes. And isn't it, what's the beautiful lesson, like as you're going through life, that we're constantly in progress, right? Where there's no
Mhm,
perfection here. We're in progress, we're growing. And it's interesting to see other people's reactions around us
mhm.
as we start shifting and finding more joy and pause and peace in our life. What's that been like? Have you seen people be on board and supportive?
Yeah, I think I'm creating that environment, and I'm sharing it with others, and when I see them, I guess, get out of control over something really small, I'm like, this is life, this is real life, and we can move on from our mistakes, and being in environments where it's okay to make those mistakes has been amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything else as we wrap up our time together this morning?
No, I guess as people listen to this, I would just say make a fun plan for the weekend and don't write it on a to-do list.
Yay! That's awesome. Thank you again, everybody, for listening in. And if you want any information regarding the den, just reach out to me, or more information regarding the power of joy, just let us know. We're here for you. Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.